Hi, everyone. I just want to take 5 minutes if you have time to kind of learn about how to do posts. Let me go ahead and share my screen and show you kind of what I'm talking about. Here we go. So let me move my image over here, and here is what I'm pulling up. So this is all on Canvas. When you go into the forum for Unit 1, which is Lesson Plan 1 and 2, and again, you get to choose which one to write on, you will see the directions very detailed on how to do post work, information on rubrics, example posts here, feedback, AI generated stuff not to use. So let me walk you through this very briefly so you have kind of confidence as you write your post. First of all, there are posts due every week or almost every week. Sometimes we have, for instance, in week 1 and 2, I give you the option to post either week 1 or week 2, and you have lesson 1 or 2 to choose from. Every time we cover 2 lessons, what you have to do is post work, and that post work includes a lesson plan post where I give you a prompt. There's actually questions to answer. I also ask that you do peer-to-peer, at least 2 peer-to-peer responses as a minimum, and then you respond back once to a student who has responded to you. That's new. I'm adding this semester because I want to make sure that students don't just put up their posts and then disappear, but they actually interact with classmates and learn what students have written back to them, and they can respond back one time at least as a minimum. So that would be the goal, to accomplish those tasks within each unit. And there are 6 units this term. So there's 6 major lesson plan posts plus the peer-to-peer, and then the response post is back. When you answer a lesson plan post, when you go to the prompt and read what it is, you'll always write up your response in 3 parts. It will have the 3 labeled parts. You actually include those labels in your post. You break it up into part 1, the key ideas, where you're pulling in ideas from the lesson. And I'll explain how to do that in a minute. You also have a section called My Thoughts, where you're reflecting on the material at your deeper thinking level, and you're analyzing it from your perspective, having learned the material, not just the top of your head, but with all that wealth of knowledge. And then a question for the class to address. That question has to relate back to the material, and it'll be a little bit more in depth than, hey, what do you think about Buddhism? Or do you think that religion's dying out? Or what do you think about, let's say if it's for ethics course, because I'm doing this for both my religion and ethics course and for my honors and non-honors. If it's an ethics course, do you agree with Peter Singer's, moral circle? It would be a lot more in depth than that. Now, what I mean by a lot more is not like, what do you think? But think about the material, having watched the films, done the reading, listened to the lecture. What strikes you as something you want to address or have answered, or something you want to discuss with your classmates? So a little bit more is like, what's your opinion of, but a little deeper thinking than that, if you can. And so that would constitute a lesson plan post, the 3 parts. At the end of those 3 parts, you would have a word count. And what sometimes students include in the word count, the long, detailed prompt, and they include that as part of the word count. The word count is just what you've written. So just to let you know, it's not including the actual, you don't have to restate the post question. It is important, though, to indicate which lesson plan you're addressing. So when I give you 2 to choose for the week, you can say lesson 1 and then write key ideas. Lesson 2, write the key ideas, my thoughts, and question for the class. So you can indicate which lesson post it is, but you don't have to actually re-put the question there. And so the word count is just what you've written. And then in addition to the lesson plan posts, which those are generally due on a Friday, there's the peer-to-peer that is due over the weekend after that. So you get a couple days where you could read what other people's lesson class posts are, and then you could then put up some peer-to-peer responses, and those would be due at the latest by Sunday after that Friday of reading those lesson plan posts and getting yours up. And there would be 2 peer-to-peers that you'd be writing, and then 1 response back to one student who's written to you. And that would be what's necessary for the post grade. Can you do more than that? Absolutely. That would be considered extra credit. We'll talk about that in a second. I just want to talk about the word count. So for my honors and my non-honors, the word counts will be different. For my non-honors, I put the phrase 300 words minimum. A lot of times students do a lot longer because they really want to detail it at a higher level than 300 words. That's fine. I don't have a maximum in that sense. And then my honors is 500 words minimum. So that's fine as well. How to detail it, again, I'll talk about that in 1 second. Let me just get through the word count. And then the peer-to-peer. So for non-honors, it's 75 minimum. And then for honors, it's 125. And then the response back to a student could be just a little shorter if you needed that to be. That's where you're writing back to a student who's written to you. So So how to detail your posts. So let's go to the examples. What I wanted you to do is to make sure that it's obvious, it's evident that it's not AI generated. In order to do that, you have to pull in lots of depth and material from the lesson. So you're bringing in reading, you're bringing in films, you can bring in lecture, you can bring in the lecture notes, but a lot of times students focus a lot on the readings, that's fine. But occasionally throwing in the films, that's also a good idea. You would include like quotes, you can include examples that you found specifically in the reading, you can include any details, any terms, anything that you think this was striking to me, it caught my attention and I want to add it in there. That would be considered a detail. When students do that, I have confidence it's not AI generated. I want to make sure this is human generated. Absolutely 100% important to do that in this class. One, AI hallucinates, so sometimes it comes up with weird stuff that doesn't fit. Two, AI is very general. And three, AI is not independent philosophical writing. It has to be your writing, your analysis without ever pulling up AI for that. So I am pro AI in some areas, like when you're talking to a philosopher through character AI, when you're using AI for creating beautiful images. I think some of the images I see are just breathtaking. I know there's a whole artist controversy there, but I understand that, but not for your writing, not to represent your writing. So when it is written without those references, or it hallucinates, or is vague, or there's some keywords I see AI posts have, and I've caught many of them. They are run through several AI detectors. Some of them are actually pretty good. And then I write you saying you got a 0. And it's really a situation I don't want to have encounter this semester. And please don't ever use the AI is the key message there for writing your posts. Okay. If you want to ask AI, can you explain to me the concept of, I don't know what you want to say, Friedrich Nietzsche's Übermensch as an example. I'm just pulling up a philosophical example, and you need some grasping of that concept, that's fine, but you would never take that and then put it into your post writing. Okay, so examples real quick. I want to end this in just a minute. This is an example of a shorter meaning it's not, gosh, that's actually pretty, not too short, but I'll show you a very lengthy one in a minute. But here's the key ideas. The student highlighted some of the reading 1, reading 2, reading 3, my thoughts. They incorporated some of the references as well into the my thoughts section. There's some quotes in there. Some important concepts, question for the class, and then the peer-to-peer, again, putting the word count at the end, and sometimes adding references, which is a great idea for peer-to-peer. And then going back for a second to pull this one up. Example 2 would be a little lengthier of a post, but again, just showing you that sometimes students write longer ones. This one was 945. This particular student incorporated a couple of the readings, reading 1, reading 3, but they also incorporated film 1, film 2, film 5. So that was kind of a lot of material they're bringing in, but it caught my attention as being kind of a really very strong post there. And then the length of the post, I already mentioned that. But the key is to do well is just really reference. I know what I wanted to say, the grading of the post. That's what I wanted to get to. So for the lesson plan post, the top score would be 20, but students that get an 18, that's still an A. A 20 out of 20 for a lesson post would be just like, wow, that's just blow mine. That's awesome. That's just A+, excellent. And then 18, 19, those are all still very good grades. And then the B range is here. So just to let you know, it doesn't have to be a perfect score. I tend to give almost full credit for the peer-to-peer if you satisfied, yes, you responded to peers. Yes, you met the word count. Yes, there's some thought there. Yes, it's not AI generated, because sometimes I catch those. Those are really bummer to see those as AI generated, because you're just responding to a peer. If it's independent writing, philosophical thinking on your own 2 feet, I will give full credit for the peer work. It's the lesson flows that get discriminated against. So if you feel like, oh, shoot, I didn't get my 30 out of 30 points that I wanted, that's fine. That's totally fine in post scores. But there is opportunity for extra credit. Where's my extra credit section? So at the end of every week or every unit, I offer what's called weekly wrap-ups. Look for those, and that will give you an extra film to watch or article to read and an opportunity to post in that week for that unit as an extra credit. You can also do extra credit lesson posts. You can do a couple extra peer-to-peer, and that could potentially add to your score in the class and help you out. So just to let you know, there's lots of opportunities in this class. Okay, I think I want to end this so I don't take too much of your time. I hope this helped give you confidence. I'm not trying to scare anybody like, oh, it has to be so detailed. It's going to be like every second. I really want you to explain ideas, and then you can have quotes or examples to illustrate them. So really explaining, you wouldn't just fill a whole post with quotes, quote, 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 quote. It's your explanation of them, and then to use the quotes, the examples, the details, the illustrations in there to support it. Okay, hope that made sense. Reach out to me if you have any questions or need any guidance. I am here to help. And in the past, my post scores have been quite strong, so I'm excited to read your post work as well. Okay, take care, everybody. Namaste, and I wish you well. Bye-bye.